So, like I said, Avery, of course, I'm a senior in high school. And I remember, like, senior year is like it's a really weird time. And I know when I was a junior in high school, all of my best friends were all seniors. And they would all tell me, they're like, yeah, this year I have 5 study halls. The classes I'm taking are ceramics and jewelry. I don't show up until second period. And I was like, wow, that's so awesome. The senior year is going to be so fun. Total lie. That is not true. For me, senior year has just been like super stressful. And everyone here like kind of knows that. It's been a really stressful time. But for me to be able to go through that, like one of the main things that I kind of feel is just defeated, honestly. There's this time in your life and you have to make, when you're still a kid, you have to make all the decisions about being an adult. It's kind of a crazy, rough time. And I start thinking, what am I doing that they weren't doing, that I feel so defeated? Then you just sit back and realize, in order for them to have that easy senior year, I like to say, they still had to feel defeated at some point in junior year. If it wasn't junior year, it was sophomore year. And if it wasn't in high school, it's going to be in college. If it wasn't in college, you're going to be like an adult feeling defeated. And there's no age limit to feeling defeated. There's no age limit to anxiety. There's a certain age when you grow into anxiety and I'm not looking forward to being an adult because that's when I'm going to start being anxious. No. Or, I can't wait till I turn 40 because that's when I'm going to stop being anxious. There's no age of when, it's all ages. When you feel defeated, you feel this anxiety, you kind of feel down on yourself. And, the big question, like for all of us, you always wonder for everyone is just kind of the why. Why do I feel defeated? Why is this happening? Why do I feel like this? Why is life so hard? Why are there times when I feel so miserable? And we always just wonder, who else feels this way? Like, who else is going through this? Am I the only one? And we just wonder, just kind of all these questions that we have for God. And so I want you to think to yourselves right now, what are some things that are defeating you? What are the things in your life that are getting you down? There's a wide spectrum of things that could be. It could be, I got a B on my test. Totally valid. That makes you feel defeated. Or my family member is going through a really rough period of health. That makes you feel defeated. What are the things that in your life that you are bringing to God and saying, why is this happening? And when situations feel out of control, at home or with your friends, or you're going through a bad period of mental health or a period of anxiety, when things are not in your control, what are you going to do? And all of these, it's important to say that these are normal feelings, and everyone goes through these. And the Bible says that you will have these feelings. John 16:33 says, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, for I have overcome the world. God is saying himself, not some days you might have trouble, or maybe if you're really unlucky, you might have some trouble. No, he's saying that everyone, you will have trouble in this world, but I've overcome the world. And that's not important. I've already done all of that hard work for you. You don't even have to worry about it, which is super comforting. But even just knowing that God has you, admittedly, I don't know about you guys, but for me, that's not always helping me in the moment very much. Sometimes I always have this joy, this peace inside me, knowing that, God's got me. But sometimes I still get caught on what's the next step still. I understand that God has me, and that everything's under control, but what am I going to do when I'm in the heat of the moment, and what am I going to do next? And what you do in that time is when you feel defeated, in that point when you're at your breaking point and you're overwhelmed, you're ready to quit, well, what are the things that you do for yourself to get yourself out of that rut, besides thinking sitting here I'm going to give up, what am I going to do? What are you doing to get yourself out of that? And so the important thing, I think, is the most important. There's plenty of coping mechanisms you can use, whether it's hanging out with your friends, whether it's eating, whether it's more destructive things like alcohol, like drugs, everything else. The best thing you can do for yourself in that time of feeling defeated is turn to the Bible. So some of my favorite Bible verses that I'd like to share with you today are the Bible verses that get me through times of feeling defeated. And the first one is Hebrews 10, verses 35 and 36, which says, do not throw away your confidence. It will be richly rewarded. You need to persevere so that when you've done the will of God, you will receive what he has promised. And this verse it's just a good promise for us, because the Bible it's saying, don't throw away your confidence. Don't throw it away just because you've had a bad day, just because you've had a bad week, a bad month, a bad year. Even if you're feeling really down on yourself for, super long time, it just doesn't make it a bad life. It doesn't mean there's not good things going for you. There's still people that love you and are always there for you. Don't throw away your confidence and everything else good in your life. And that you need to persevere, because once you push through and do these things that God's saying, once you go through and say, I pushed through this hard time, I still did what God wanted me to do, He says you will be rewarded. That's not like, well, good for you. Good job getting through it. He's saying you will be rewarded. You have gifts in heaven when you get through this time. Another verse I have for you guys is that it's in Hebrews 12:11, which says, "No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it." And this verse is kind of funny. It's the same as like John 16:33. It's saying like it will be painful, like you will have trouble. And it says no discipline seems pleasant. And discipline is anything that pushes you past your limits. And discipline is something that pushes you out of your comfort zone. It's not just, first thing you think when you say discipline is your mom yelling at you and grounding you. But discipline in this context is saying like, what are some things that are going to train you that are hard to make you better? And these things, it says it's not going to feel good. It's going to be really uncomfortable. It's going to be really painful. But if you let yourself be trained by that and intentionally take the steps to move on and heal from that, you'll be rewarded. Instead of living in that anger and that bitterness of saying, well, I'm always going to be miserable. I'm always going to be sad. If you let yourself be trained by it, you'll be richly rewarded by God in every way. That He still has all these gifts for you, and it produces a harvest of righteousness, this verse says, and peace. Lastly, in James 1, verses 2 and 3, it says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know the testing your faith produces perseverance." And this is a pretty well-known verse, you guys might know it. But honestly, I kind of struggle with this verse a little bit, because it says at the beginning, it says, "Consider it pure joy when you face trials." I know for myself, personally, when I go through, the senior year has been super stressful. When I go through this time of feeling defeated, the first thought in my mind is not, I'm so happy this is happening. I'm so happy school is so hard. This is so awesome. It's joy. It's not asking you to love your situation you're in right now, but it's asking you to give it a chance. Consider it joy because you know what happens next, and you know who's holding it next, and that will produce perseverance in your life. The important thing to remember is that even if you feel defeated, like I don't have what it takes to get through this time, I'm not equipped. God's not giving me the gifts of everything to be able to get through this. God equips the called, doesn't call the equipped. According to 2 Corinthians 8, verse 12, he says this. He's saying that, the gift is according to what one has, not what you don't have. God's going to get you through this time. If you don't feel like you have the tools to be able to get through this, God is saying, I got you. Stick with it, because I'm going to give you the tools you need to get through this time. And the whole important thing that all these verses all have connected, the main point of all of these, is that God has a purpose to become like Christ through everything we do, including feeling defeated. Every human emotion that we feel, Jesus already felt at some point. And when it says, the Bible says, in order to share in His blessings, we have to also share in His sufferings. And we're right, because we're becoming more like Christ when we hang out with our youth groups, when we all laugh together, we hang out together, we fellowship together. That's making you more like Christ. But in order to share in the good times, you also have to share in the bad times. And suffering, defeat, and all of these things are ultimately making us more like Christ through everything we go through. And that is God's purpose behind defeat. That is the reason we go through these hard times, because it's shaping us to be more like Jesus. And these times of defeat, they humble us. They make us realize we're not perfect. We rely on God more when we're defeated. When you're at your low point, you realize that I'm not sufficient. God is sufficient. They make us realize that we need to become wiser, to learn for the future. They challenge us to pray more, to be able to trust God more, follow Christ more. When you're at a point when you know that you can't do it by yourself, you need some holy being up above to be able to help you through this, and all that is only God. These times of defeat push us to realize, I really cannot do this on my own, and this is what's going to get me through this, and it's going to be by God. So in this, I encourage you guys to be able to remember this. The next time that you feel defeated, the next time you think, what is my next step? What am I going to do this? Why am I going through this? What is the purpose? Realize that these times of defeat are making you more like God and more like Christ. And God has a plan through them, everything we do. Thank you guys so much.
Wow.